Welcome back.
No, we still close because then it's like.
How quick it's going there.
I know.
Ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
I'm ready.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Afters with Joe and Chelsea. We have got a very special guest with us today. Chelsea's going to introduce her because she's got some fabulous things to say about her. And I'll probably mess it up. So, over to you.
Okay, I'm going to try and not make this too scripted, but I have written down your introduction. So I'm very excited about this one, as I've probably said to you many times. So Gauri has a competitive background in sport at a national level, and you'll have to stop me if I say anything wrong. And she also has academic knowledge in nutrition, sports massage, strength and conditioning. She spent the majority of her younger years in gymnastics, which led you to have a keen interest in functional strength, flexibility and mobility. Obviously, for most of us, life doesn't always go as smoothly as we'd like, and you were diagnosed with severe anemia in your early 20s, which kind of made you turn your attention to food, which I really love this part because this kind of sparked your interest in trying to understand how food can be a natural aid in both health and performance. So knowing that the majority of the population struggle with food, Gauri shared her nutritional recipes on her platforms like YouTube, Instagram and her blog, and this led to her releasing a healthy recipe ebook, which now still helps, I believe, a lot of people in their health and fitness journey. So lots of success from Gauri, which led you to become a sponsored athlete and consequently work with and feature in women's health magazines, as well as many other health and fitness magazines. And you continue to collaborate with many top brands and athletes in the health and fitness industry. You are obviously now a female coach, online female coach, and you work with women to help them understand how they can best nourish their bodies and kind of evolve a more holistic approach to their health and fitness. The one thing me and you always go on about is how one size doesn't fit all. Yeah. And I really love how that's kind of like the center of what you do with all of your clients. So I'm really excited about this one. Gauri, welcome to Afters with Joe and Chelsea.
Thank you very much. That was quite an intro.
I hope I kind of covered everything.
You did, you got it all.
I just feel like there's so much we need to give you a good introduction so people get a nice understanding of why we're so excited to have you on this podcast.
Why don't I get that sort of introduction?
Hi everyone, this is Joe.
Yeah, no, we're very, very privileged to have you on, Gauri. So let's get into it. You've been around sports from a very young age. I think you said 2 years old. You then went from school to uni to do physiotherapy, and then changed sports to sports science. But in the meantime, got your PT qualification. Yeah. As someone who has always been around sport and fitness, how did nutrition play a role in your life growing up, and was there any advice given to you by a coach or an adult in your life about nutrition and the importance of food?
That is a really good question actually to start on. I'm going to delve right in there.
Yeah, there's no holding back.
Yeah. So, to be honest, when I was younger, there was not really any talk about nutrition in my household. I grew up in a really big family with my cousins, my grandparents, and everything revolved around food, as in like all our family occasions revolved around food. And because I was so active, there was no sort of, I never really made any links between food and exercise because I never had to think about what I was eating. It was only until I went to university and after my first year of university, I'd stopped really doing any kind of exercise in that year, and then I came back and I just remember looking in the mirror and just like feeling so uncomfortable. My clothes felt tight, I was really low on energy, and I just thought something's got to change. And I went through, so that was the first time it was the first sort of trigger, I guess, that got me thinking more about exercise as well as my diet. But it only really started, I only really started to delve more into nutrition, I guess, when I started my sports science degree. Or actually, no, my personal training qualification, because that actually started to teach me the basics. And then I just got more and more interested in it. But there was no one initially who taught me about nutrition. I sort of, once I had that initial sort of, how can I put it, that initial taste of nutrition, from my personal training qualification, I just found it fascinating and just wanted to learn more and more.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think, speaking from my personal experience, I don't think anyone ever really told me what is going to affect me from a nutritional point of view. You do a little bit at school, but obviously in my uni course, well, I'll probably say the same, but I think same as you, like you just hit a point where you start to question things and start being a bit more curious about what you're eating. And
definitely.
It can affect your performance.
I think these days, children are a lot more aware of nutrition just because of social media and how much there is on social media floating about. But I think when we were younger, there wasn't really that buzz around it.
I think as well, like from a female point of view as well, I think a lot of the nutrition that I kind of grew up around was whatever the latest diet my mum was trying or family members were on, because I think there's a lot, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
Do you want to talk about your uni diet when I first met you?
What was that like?
So I'm not sure if this is like a nutritional thing or this is just saving money, but
I don't know. Well, yeah, it's just deluded. That's what it was.
I don't want to say this now. I'm really embarrassed.
She used to bag up baked beans and pasta.
Oh no! Do you know what? I know someone else who used to do that. Yeah. What? One of my good friends used to do that in university.
I think it's more of a money thing, isn't it? Money and convenience.
That is can't be that.
Well, to be fair, you're getting your protein from the beans, you're getting your fibre, and then you're getting your carbohydrates from the pasta. So when you break it down, it's not so bad.
Just wanted to lead quickly into what you're saying about your PT course. So is there kind of a basic level of nutrition when you do your PT course, or do they go into nutrition as well as obviously strength and conditioning, etc.?
There is the basic information, and you are obviously tested on it, but it doesn't really delve into much detail. That's kind of up to you to learn yourself, and that's why you do see a lot of personal trainers, or you do hear a lot of personal trainers who don't really provide that aspect, or will provide like really cookie cutter plans, or they'll find something off the internet and then just give it to a client, which is obviously not the right thing to do. So you kind of have to go out and either get a separate qualification in nutrition yourself, or do more research, like actual science-based research around it.
That kind of splits as well the people that really care about the holistic approach and those that just want to get in the gyms and make a living.
You mentioned previously, so you said about when you did your sports science degree, you started to think about food, but I think it was when you first started getting into the gym and training, that's when you actually looked at nutrition. Why do you think that kind of linked up at that certain time?
For me, I guess around that point, it was for more of my physical appearance that I wanted to change, but then over time it became more about performance, and I think that's what happens with a lot of people. Initially it starts off with wanting to change their appearance in some way or another, but then they actually realise the benefits of how strong they're feeling, and just wanting to push their body that little bit more with their training, and just their energy levels like day to day, and like realising how your nutrition and how your meals, even like how you structure your meals throughout the day, like how much of a difference that can make on your energy levels and your sleep. So yeah, it just kind of became a domino effect.
All happens and links together.
Yeah, I think like when we started our journey, obviously ours was through kind of gut health, but we probably at the start we did care more about what we looked like.
Yeah.
But then going on that journey, you suddenly realise that okay, I'm not as bloated as I usually am. Okay, now I can start, doing more exercise, and then it just tumbles, doesn't it? Like if I'm now doing a lot of gym stuff and weight stuff, which I've never really done before, and if I'd have told myself like a year ago that I'd be doing it consistently, not for the way that I look, but because I enjoy being able to lift heavier. God, I sound like such a gym.
No, I love it. I love it.
I would have been like, what are you talking about? But yeah, just touching on the nutrition side of stuff. Like, do you think there's a lot of information out there that splits kind of the nutrition that's needed for women rather than as a general, if that makes sense?
Not really. I think there's starting to become a bit more knowledge around how women differ from men in terms of how they should go about their nutrition, but I don't think it's talked about enough. I think there's a lot of there are a lot of blanket statements that are thrown around, and like intermittent fasting for one is something that so many people talk about and or like implement, but they're implementing it in
a general way.
Yeah, a very general way without taking into account things like hormones and like stages of life, and that can play a big impact on how that affects the body.
Yeah, like I have to admit I am a fasting lover, but I recently discovered buzzword Dr. Mindy. Is there going to be a podcast where I don't mention her name? Probably not.
Just send her a DM. Just send her, I'll go out of the room and you can take her a conversation.
So, and it's the first time that I've actually read and understood that something like fasting doesn't work, just intermittent fasting all the time for women, because we do have hormones, we have ebbs and flows, like we have to understand what part of our cycle we're on, or what part of our journey that we're on, because some women are premenopausal, postmenopausal, which changes everything. But I do think it's interesting that not enough people are kind of exploring or talking about the fact that, this is a blanket statement. It may be different for men and women.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you find, like, when you work with your clients, they ever come to you with certain advice that they've heard and you have to kind of help, I don't know, like untangle that with them a little bit, or like how do you go about that with your clients?
All the time. And even when I give guidelines to them, obviously questions are going to pop up because they'll see something on social media, or someone, like one of their friends or family members, have said something to them, and they naturally they question what I've told them, and they just want to. Well, I love it when they ask me questions, because then I get to actually educate them based on science and like what I've experienced myself. But yeah, so many different things come up, and it's part of the job. That's what I'm here for, to answer those questions.
Yeah.
You spoke about there, like helping your clients from a female perspective or point of view. You have mentioned previously that you like to look at food as like being medicine, and how you grew up having family members that were dealing with like diabetes and things like that. Is that in some way, do you think, motivated you to go down the more nutritional side of things, or was it just to kind of help females, or was it a bit both, or what?
Initially it was definitely because I was seeing, like, I was surrounded by family members who were unwell and had poor diets, and I didn't want that for myself growing up, and I didn't want to be that person when I was older, having to rely on other people looking after me because of something I was doing to myself.
Yeah.
So that's where it started. But then, obviously, through my coaching process, I wanted to help women, and specifically women, because of the information or the misinformation that I was constantly seeing.
Yeah. I think that's very inspirational, isn't it?
Yeah. I have one question in relation to that.
Yeah.
To date, what is the most common and annoying thing, let's say, that or belief that your clients come to you with that you have to help, what's the word, break down and bust? Yeah.
There's a couple, but the one that springs to mind is eating as little as possible. And yes, like we know, like calorie deficit is the way to lose weight, but to drop body fat, you need to be eating enough calories and consuming enough protein to support your energy levels, support preserving your muscle mass, and just and like even healthy fats. Like you need healthy fats for your hormones to be working effectively and properly and efficiently. So just even like going low fat, like that is a stress on the body in itself for a woman.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably eating as little as possible is the one that I see the most.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. So for all you women out there that are going on their January diets, listen to this.
Yeah, skipping breakfast actually
Yeah.
is the main culprit, I think, for like that spiraling or like starting it off. Yeah. Like I had a lot of clients who were just like skipping their first meal of the day, but then realizing later on in the day they were getting those energy crashes, the cravings, and yeah, again it just becomes a vicious cycle.
Yeah. It's interesting what you just said about protein as well, because I've just started this hair course, which is a bit relevant, so I won't talk too much about it. But she talks about protein because hair is like an extension of the skin, and your hair follicles and your skin need protein, which you wouldn't normally think as a woman.
Yeah.
You just think of protein like, oh, I'm in the gym, I'm lifting weights, and that's kind of how it's advertised. But actually, it's protein and collagen that helps your skin and your hair grow really healthy. So getting more of that helps your body to make the proteins that it needs to build strong hair and have nice elastic skin.
Yeah, I think not many people realise that every single cell in your body contains protein molecules. Like you need protein to help rebuild and repair your cells in your body, not just your muscle cells. It's in every single cell in your body.
So protein's just got a bit of a confused
Yeah.
RAM at the moment, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind me saying that you have competed for bodybuilding.
Yeah, no. I love delving into this topic.
So, quite a few things I want to ask you about this. So, number one, did you enjoy the experience? Did you not? Why? Second question, what was like the biggest takeaway you learned from like the nutritional part of that process? From there? Yeah. So, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, 100%.
Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed every part of it. And yeah, that might come as a surprise because you do have to kind of push your body. Well, it's a sport at the end of the day. It's not something that I would advise people to do because it's not healthy.
Yeah.
But the actual process of why I did it and the people I met during that process, like, just made it all so worth it. And what it taught me was just how different, because every single competition I did, so I did 4 competitions, all very different, purposefully very different, so that I could just see how my body reacted in those different competitions and with the different sort of styles of like prepping for those competitions. And every single one taught me something different about nutrition. So the very first one I did was super clean diet. Like when they say clean eating, that was what I was doing. No sugar, no junk food, nothing. For the whole prep, and I did it like the typical bro way. And yeah, it worked. Like I got super lean, but just like looking back at the photos, I looked so unhealthy, like so skinny, and yeah, although it worked to get me lean, it was definitely not healthy.
Yeah.
The second one I did in a more flexible way. So I used the flexible dieting approach, where I was sort of incorporating more sort of fun foods into my diet, but like sticking to certain macros.
Yeah.
And that worked really well for me. Again, taught me that I could still get quite lean by incorporating foods that I actually enjoyed into my diet. And then the third one I did was I actually did that with a coach. So a coach prepped me for that competition. So it was good to learn how they would sort of change things, or like and yeah, to be honest though, I can't remember it being much difference. The only difference I realised with that coach is that I could eat a lot more than I thought I could, which was obviously again really eye-opening as a woman. Like you think you have to eat like as little as possible, but I just saw my performance and strength increase so much with that coach, which was obviously really interesting as well to see. And then the fourth one I actually won this competition, and that was a performance-based competition, or it's 50% physique, 50% performance-based. And yeah, my favourite competition, not just because I won it, but it was...
Sorry, just for anyone that doesn't know, what is the performance 50-50?
So there were 5 main lifts. There was as many squats you could do in a minute, as many, but it was based on your body weight as well. So you had to be able to lift your body weight, and then bench press was I think 60% of your body weight, and then hang pulls and pull ups. There's one last one. I can't remember I think it was deadlifts. Right. So 5 main like big lifts, and you had to get as many reps as you could in 1 minute, all based on your body weight. And I actually drew with one of the other females who were competing that day. So we had to do like a bit of a face-off, and it was as many dips as you could do in a minute. And we were side by side doing it. And yeah, I just won on that final kind of straw.
Oh, shootout,
yeah. So it was quite intense. But as well, like there wasn't much time between each of the exercises, so it was a real so you had to make sure you were obviously fueled for each event throughout, like between the times that you had between the time the other women were competing, and you had that rest. So yeah, that was good fun and interesting.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
If there's people listening to this and they've always like wondered if they would kind of take up female bodybuilding, what would you recommend for them how would they get started? Like, would you recommend having a coach? Was it better to be by yourself? Would you recommend maybe like joining a gym first, or like, what would be your best tips for any females wanting to, or males first?
No, sorry, this is female.
I would firstly just question the reasoning behind wanting to compete, because it's not something I would advise. Like, having been through it myself and coming out and actually realising the implications it had on my body, like long-term implications it had on my body that I've had to sort of re-heal. It's not something I would advise. So in that instance, I would always say do it with a coach. Do it with a coach who has had experience not only doing it with themselves but working with females and who's got a lot of knowledge around female hormones and things like that. Because there are also lots of coaches who will get women to the most incredible shape for that stage day, but with things like performance enhancing drugs and all sorts of things. So it's a sport at the end of the day. It is a sport, and with sports and like extremes, like you naturally go through extremes when you get to high levels of sport. So just something to bear in mind.
It's not sustainable forever.
Yeah, no.
So just touching upon your health there, obviously your body's under a lot of stress when you're competing, and I believe to the point where you even lost periods at that time. Is this kind of the time that you were aware of your anemia, or when did that come into play?
I first realised that I was very anemic when I spoke about that first year, after my first year of uni, and I came back and my energy levels were really low. I did get a blood test done, and that's the first time I realised I was very anemic. And I was told I had to be on iron tablets for the rest of my life, and that was kind of what triggered me to think I don't want to be on iron tablets for the rest of my life. But I think after my first competition was when it got really bad, because obviously you're on a lot less calories as well. Naturally your body becomes more deficient in it, especially if you're regularly training. You need more than the average person of those basic vitamins and minerals. So so through competing, because I was at such low levels of body fat, that's what then also triggered the loss of periods.
Yeah. So for a woman on a fitness journey, and she's at the point where she has lost her cycle, she's not having a cycle anymore, what would your advice be to maybe even then, maybe they're not even on a fitness journey, maybe they're just so stressed that they've lost their cycles. What would your advice be to females getting back on track with this? And is it anything to do with food as well?
Yeah, 100%. I think the first thing would definitely be to get a blood test. So go to your GP, get a blood test done, and see what is actually going on. So because it could be due to so many different factors. It could be due to hormone imbalances. It could be due to low levels of iron, but there are also different types of iron. So you'll be able to know what is actually sort of low and what's missing. Even vitamin B tends to be a common one, especially for vegetarians and vegans. So 100%. First off, get a blood test, see what's going on, and then your doctor would generally prescribe you what you need to get those levels up or rebalance those hormones. And I think that would be the best way to go about it. But then also, like you mentioned, stress can be a major factor. So if everything is normal in those blood tests, it's very likely that you're very stressed, but that stress can come from exercise, it can come from dieting, it can come from lifestyle factors. So just being aware of those things, and lack of sleep even. So just being aware of those things and trying to pinpoint maybe what it could be and reduce or relieve that stress as much as possible is going to be really beneficial.
I think this leads on quite nicely to what I wanted to highlight to everybody, because obviously you've been through a very long journey with lots of different roller coasters along the way, and I know that you got to a point where your body was so stressed and you were so lethargic. I think you got diagnosed with extreme fatigue, you said?
Yeah,
chronic fatigue. So for a lot of women, I think the fear of that I can't put on weight, or I can't stop doing what I'm doing, or I can't relax, I need to keep doing what I'm doing, I've got this job to run, I've got, I don't know, a family to look after, I like the way that I look, I don't want that to change. I know you got to a point where you were so tired and not well that you allowed your body to completely relax, and you did put on weight. So can you just talk us through that, because I think that's something that's definitely going to resonate with women, being able to go through that and then come out the other side.
Yeah, definitely. And it was a really difficult time because obviously those questions were going through my head. Like, I'd obviously been a certain weight or shape for like quite a few years, and I'd got used to seeing that in the mirror. So naturally it was a bit scary going into it, but what triggered it was watching a YouTuber called Stephanie Buttermore, and she went through a process because everything she was saying I resonated with. Like, everything she said, I thought that is exactly how I feel. And she went through this all-in process where she just ate whatever she wanted, when she wanted, as much as she wanted, and eventually she got to what was called a set point with her weight, which was like a point where she understood when she was full, understood when she was hungry, and like her weight sort of just fluctuated around the same sort of amount. And then eventually it started to come back down again, like as her body was obviously getting used to eating normally again. I think because I went through such a long period of dieting, my body lost the ability to sense when it was full or hungry. So I always felt hungry and never felt full. That's how I felt. Like, I could eat forever. Well, everyone used to say that I was just like my dad, because my dad has, like, he's so slim, but he can eat like no one's business. But for me, it was actually it was deeper than that. I just couldn't sense when I was full. After I kind of got that confidence from watching this YouTuber's videos, I decided to try it myself. I actually stopped exercising completely. One, because I actually just didn't have the energy to either. Like, I was going for walks up my road and I felt absolutely exhausted just walking up to the top of my road. And then I literally just started eating what I wanted, and that wasn't just like healthy foods, it was everything. And again, that's quite scary because you can very easily get into this sort of binge mentality. But I just had to keep telling myself, like, my body needs this fuel right now, and if I don't give it the calories and the food that it needs or that it wants, I'm never going to be able to sense when I am full, or like when I am hungry, because those hormones will never be balanced. So I just had to keep reminding myself of this. I didn't weigh myself until like a very later point, and
How much weight had you put on at that point?
I put on 10 kg. Wow. So quite a considerable amount. I mean,
how long? How many years? A year?
That was over about a year. 2 years. A year or 2 years. I think it was roughly a year or two. So it was very gradual. But I noticed throughout that period, like, my energy levels just came back so much more, and I felt really good. Like, so that's, for me, I continued just eating intuitively, but eventually those sort of wants or needs to not stop eating reduced. So naturally I then became a little bit more aware of, like, when I was full, when I was hungry, and just going with that rather than feeling the need to constantly eat. And it got to a point where I was really happy with my energy levels. I was feeling really good. My periods were regular again, which they'd never been. So regular, like, for the first time ever, I mean. And then I felt like I was ready to just do a bit more exercise. So I literally just started doing steps a day, like reaching a certain number of steps a day, and then gradually incorporating some strength sessions a week. Like just started with one a week, and then slowly built myself up from there. And yeah, wasn't worrying about diet or anything like that at that time. But then eventually, I did start to become more aware of like what I was eating, because I wanted to just be a bit more comfortable in my skin again, because
Yeah.
I think
Huge change, isn't it?
yeah,
Going from
yeah,
competing physique to not being well and having fatigue and putting on a lot of weight. It's
yeah,
it's a lot to
Stress on the body, isn't it?
yeah.
definitely. But yeah, I think just allowing my body to just completely relax in every way possible was the best thing for me. And now I'm so glad I went through that period, because I've got to a point where I feel like I can eat what I want, but also be mindful about my food choices, so that I'm not lacking energy and I'm not gaining excessive amounts of weight, or like not nourishing my body enough, so I don't have enough fuel for performing well in the gym and things like that. So
I think it just makes you really relatable as well, because there's so many women that can relate to going through peaks and troughs with their fitness journey and their weight and things. So it's nice for me, and I'm sure for many other women, to hear and to speak to someone who's in the fitness industry that has gone through lows and highs. It just makes it much more relatable, doesn't it?
yeah, it's all part of the journey.
Yeah, it's. I keep using the word inspirational.
You're an
But-
inspiration, Gauri.
there is just so many pieces of information out there now, isn't there, for what is right for you to be putting in your body, and exercise wise, sleep, etc. But looking at you as a coach now, so obviously that made you go on that coaching journey. You want to start helping people as a result of what you've been through. What motto do you use with your clients? What is like your guiding principle of coaching by Gauri?
Well, for me, it's about helping women feel as confident in their clothes as they do in their skin, and being able to still enjoy the foods they love, but being able to get to their goal of whether that's performance-based goals or physique-based goals, being able to get to that goal without missing out on things like social occasions, or restricting themselves to the point where they're not enjoying their food or their diet. And I have a very long-term sort of outlook on what I want for my clients. I want them to learn everything to the point that they never have to have a coach again. I will teach them literally everything I know and everything they need to know to be able to maintain and sustain their results. So no matter what situation they're in, they know how to rein it back in when they need to, or push when they have the energy or want to.
That's brilliant. I think just so many coaches and PTs and other people in the industry just need to hear that you shouldn't need a coach forever, should you? You should just be giving out all your, let me get this right, plethora.
Oh, big
knowledge.
word.
Is that the right word?
Nice.
And just helping people, just being genuine. Like, I'm not a woman, but I want to be coached by a girl. It's just so refreshing. Like, the amount of people have just been like sucked into this vacuum of the fitness industry and thinking, oh well, if I look good in the gym, I can go and help other people. If I can lift a certain weight or go on a nutrition course, I can go and help people. And they're not in it for the right reason. I think you've got a very strong, passionate reason to kind of make women especially just feel comfortable in themselves. And I think with men as well, I think there's a lot of like, you're going to get a personal trainer or someone to help you because you have to have a six pack or you have to have something aesthetic. but I think it's a lot deeper than that, isn't it? It's more like, so why do you want that six pack? Is it because you want the recognition from females? Is it because you want to feel confident enough to take the top off? Is it actually a six pack you need, or is it just something where you feel comfortable? So my question would be around that. What do you think the percentage is of women that come to you that want something that's more mentally or psychologically than it is health or physiological, is the right term?
Yeah.
Is it more aesthetic, or is it the higher percentage is more inside?
100% the higher percentage is still more physique based and appearance. There are very few who, I mean, that's not to say that there aren't still quite a few people who do just want to be strong or want to manage their stress levels or want to improve their relationship with food. Like, I have those clients as well, but the majority is still like, I want to look like this, or I want to weigh this much. And I think it's natural as a woman to have this kind of feeling because of all the pressures and just, I guess, wanting to feel like other ways of feeling confident. Part of it is from looking your best, but that also comes with feeling your best, and it just goes hand in hand.
Would you, if you could, would you want that narrative to change, or do you think it's good that women can still want to look a certain way?
Like, it's hard with social media, though, isn't it? It's still very like heavily focused on the way women look. But I think we were at the beach not long ago, and you made a comment about how there's a lot of maybe not in weight guys with very toned in weight women, and I said, well, all you have to do is look on social media or the internet or whatever. For a guy, there's not as much pressure wherever they look for the latest skin product or fat burning product, or look at this new bikini, or follow this program for a bubble butt. Like, a guy doesn't really face all of that. So, and you can see it, like when you're on the beach, there are a lot of in shape women. Well, I'm not saying this right, am I? In shape. Is that right?
Yeah.
In shape, yeah. In compared to men, which there's maybe not as many. And I think that's why, because it does depend where you are, but I think that's one of the reasons, because there is a lot more pressure on women. So I think for us to not have that, we just want to look good, I don't think we'll ever not.
And I think at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with wanting to look better, because that, as long as it's for a healthy reason, and not because of, like, say, external validation or, you know, to live up to someone's expectations. It has to come from something that the woman wants for herself and for her maybe confidence or her, like, health reasons than external pressures, I guess.
Yeah. Just kind of following on from that. So obviously, with, I think, probably more women than men, there's a lot of yo-yoing, let's call it, and there's a lot of fat diets, and not to name bash, but things like Weight Watchers and what's the other one? Because I do want to name bash now.
Herbalife.
Slim Fast.
Slim Fast, thank you. That kind of instill this, I guess, the wrong way of thinking about diet and food, and I think it does tend to lead more to yo-yoing in your weight. So what is your kind of advice, or what do you work with your clients to help kind of stop this? I'm assuming a lot of clients that you get maybe been on diets where they've lost loads of weight and then they put it back on again. So how do you kind of work with women to stop that from happening and it being more of a sustainable approach?
It will vary from person to person, depending on their past history, whether that's with dieting, but also any eating disorders, things like that. It all needs to be taken into account, and that approach needs to be something that is suitable for them. But generally, it all starts, I find, with the knowledge and learning about food, learning that there aren't really such things as good and bad foods. There's highly processed foods and foods that are whole foods, for instance, but at the end of the day, food is food, and it's more so about how we incorporate those foods into our diet and our lifestyle than I guess the types of food that we have.
Yeah. I think we touched upon it a little bit, didn't we, with Chris Jackman, who spoke a little bit about psychology and some people not being able to moderate.
Mm-hmm.
No, I forgot my question. For women, no, I was gone. What was I going to say?
Moderation?
Oh yes, that's what I was going to say. How does psychology play a role in the work that you do with these women, and do you find there tends to be sometimes a bit of psychological, emotional relationship with food?
Oh, massively. There's people's relationship with food will develop over so many years, and because of so many different things. So sometimes people eat because of emotional reasons, stress. There are lots of different reasons why people sort of use food as either a comfort blanket or don't eat because of certain sort of ideas they've built up in their head or have heard about and created like stigmas around certain things and ways of eating. So that's why I think it's so important as a coach to have check-ins with your clients and actually speak to them and delve deeper into diet and nutrition than just give them a diet plan to stick to.
Why don't you stick to that diet plan?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no, tell me why. Yeah, instead of it being more like, so what's going on with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's similar to what Jack was saying, wasn't it? Like having that relationship with your clients where they can almost analyse themselves and their behaviours with you based on what they've done that week. And it also helps keep them accountable as well, doesn't it, for their own kind of decisions, because I think sometimes people can kind of put not the blame, but put the pressure on somebody else to give them results when actually it's kind of you have to do it yourself. And some people can do it with that support, but they still need to be the ones to make those decisions. And
when we've been, as Charles said before, we've been on a bit of a gut health journey of changing our diet slightly about the foods we're consuming. We now look at food so much differently to how we did before because of the knowledge we're having, the knowledge we're taking in. Two questions. What is your stance on food? Like, what do you see now when you look at the meals you are preparing? Is it, right, I'm looking at the nutrition of it, I'm looking at all the macros. Is it, I'm looking, right, that's going to be what energy it's giving me? Are you looking at it as, oh, this is going to make me feel good? Are you looking at it as, this is healthy? What's your viewpoint?
why are you looking at it as like, just get in my belly?
Yeah. And then what would be your advice for people that struggle to kind of detach their emotion from food? What would be the more healthy way to look at food? If that makes sense.
Yeah, good question. I think for me, when I look at food, it depends. At different points in the day or different circumstances, like I might choose to eat something because it's going to benefit my performance in the gym or help me recover from the gym, or I might choose to eat something because I want it, I have a craving for it, and it's what's going to satisfy my craving and stop me from binging on other things. Sometimes I look at food because, or the way I choose my meal is because it's going to give me the right nutrients for the day, and support my energy levels, my blood sugar levels for the day. So it really depends, I guess, on what time of day it is, what I want to achieve, and things like that. This can be quite a complex subject or complex topic when it comes to emotional eating, depression, things like that, because everyone is so individual, and what helps one person won't necessarily help another. But some things that I suggest are journaling. So when someone isn't feeling great, or they would generally tend to use food for comfort, just writing down how they're feeling, what's made them feel that way, giving the emotion a name, and then writing down or doing something that will make them feel better that isn't food related. So that might be going for a walk, it might be calling a friend, it might be listening to their favourite song, it might just be doing something different to what they were doing just before, to just get them out of that headspace. And then also thinking about what's going to actually nourish their body rather than punish it. Like, what is going to make them feel better physically? Like, because if they're physically hungry, then obviously it's not going to help by restricting themselves from eating more. So one thing that I really like is the add, don't restrict rule. So where if there's a slightly unhealthy or like highly processed food that someone wants, rather than completely restricting themselves from it, try and add a source of protein and fibre to it. So it makes it a lot more balanced. It helps regulate their sugar levels, or balance their sugar levels, and just helps their appetite, like helps them feel more satiated, so that they actually feel more satisfied after they've eaten it, rather than having a chocolate and then wanting 10 more afterwards, because it's almost like empty calories because it doesn't really fill them up.
Yeah, just following on from that quickly. So your approach with the women that you coach, do you ever look at their calorie intake and track their macros and macros? Like, what's your kind of structure for helping them with food and making better choices but still being able to enjoy the foods that they want?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, everyone's different, so the approach I use will be slightly different depending on someone's background and what they want to achieve. But typically for someone who, say, wants to lose weight, or just wants to improve their physique or performance in the gym and stuff like that, then I will typically get them to keep a food diary. I'll advise them on how much protein, carbs, fats they should be having, and then I'll review their food diaries week to week and just see what improvements we can make. And then again, like, depending on things like what they want to get out of it, we'll make adjustments based on that.
Nice. So it's kind of all based around food, not like this is your calorie intake, make sure you don't go over it. It's based on the foods that they
it's as with everything I try and do, it's more of a holistic approach to nutrition. So yes, we might look at we will look at protein, carbs and fats to make sure that they're getting enough fuel and supporting their health and things like that. But I think when it comes to losing weight and dieting, it's very easy to start restricting to the point where it's too much, or becoming too obsessive around like tracking calories and things like that. So we'll go through an initial phase of maybe tracking macros, tracking calories, and like whether it's enough. Like sometimes I'll work out someone's calories and macros and they're actually a little bit too low for them because they're low on energy, they're not like they're dropping weight really quickly and too quickly, because there is such a thing as dropping weight too quickly. So we might then increase calories or increase certain elements of their nutrition so that they are feeling more energized and they're able to get through their day and like look after their kids and things like that. Then also, so when we've gone through that period, or after we've gone through that period where they're really happy with how they look, how they feel, then we'll, or like in between, we'll go through maybe a diet break, and then we'll push for that next sort of phase, and then eventually we will start to come away from tracking food and learning how to be more intuitive with their food choices, but still maintaining their physique and what they've achieved. And again, like being able to manage social events, like that's all part of it, that's all part of the process from the beginning. So it becomes a progressive thing towards being able to not track their food, but enjoy life and
I really like that.
be confident and healthy.
Yeah, you touched on social events. I remember you said something earlier as well. This is massive, isn't it, when you come to start your nutritional journey, if you're either with a coach or you're starting it by yourself. There are so many pressures when you step outside your door of what you know is the right thing to eat for you, but you look at that menu, you look at the Cheesecake Factory menu, look at the Tasha's menu, look at all these amazing, shout out to Dubai by the way, these amazing restaurants, and you can like feel yourself salivating about all the amazing foods on the board. I hope you don't mind me saying you're a bit of a foodie as it is.
Oh yeah.
There's a big stigma, isn't there, around like what women should be eating when they go out to eat, what men can be eating. Like this stupid thing where women should only be eating a salad, and
all the movies where the men orders a woman a salad.
Men can have that massive steak on the plate, and it's like a manly, masculine thing. What would you what is your kind of stance on it, firstly, and then what would you kind of want to promote to people, and especially women, like what's the kind of message where they feel a bit more comfortable with going to eat out and not being pressurized by what to eat?
Yeah, there is definitely a stigma around or misinformation, I guess, around what men and women can or can't eat when they go out, but it's also very natural for a woman to have to eat less than a man, because our physiques are different. Like naturally, we are smaller humans. We naturally tend to have less muscle mass. So our calorie intake is going to be less than a male's on average, naturally. But there are women who I would say I eat more than most men. So there are obviously caveats to that, and I think what's important to remember as well is when you go out to eat, it shouldn't be something that you do, or like you shouldn't look at a menu and think, I can't eat that because I'm going to be judged, or I don't know, because again, like I have to try and eat as little as possible because I want to stay in as tiny shape as possible. I think this all comes back down to that, having that nutritional knowledge again, and understanding what's gonna actually help nourish your body and what will actually allow you to still enjoy the meal, but also support your health or your goals at the same time. So I just think it's so beneficial and so helpful to have knowledge around nutrition for everyone, because it just helps in those situations. You feel a lot more relaxed and comfortable about the choices that you make, and ones that are going to suit you in that moment in time. Because at the end of the day, like sometimes we are going to want a salad, but then sometimes we're going to want that cheesecake, and that's okay.
Okay, so me and Joe, obviously, we like to talk about gut health and everything. We've done a few nutrition pods, but I'm not sure if we've done one food pod yet where we haven't mentioned Spinny's cookies. So what I wanted to ask you is, what is your guilty pleasure food, comfort food?
I would say it probably has to be like fully loaded nachos.
I was gonna say that, you
You
know,
do like
you do
nachos,
I
love
love
nachos.
nachos. I do love nachos.
And when you're talking like fully loaded, like let's paint the picture here, like what have we got on there?
I mean, like layers, and just I really like some sort of pulled pork or pulled chicken, beans like Mexican beans, salsa, sour cream, guac, cheese, just
Nice.
everything. Yeah.
Nice. That's a great answer.
And crispy, not soggy.
Yeah.
Have to be crispy.
Oh, I hate soggy, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of soggy. I'm not really a fan of the natural cheese either. I want that proper cheese.
Yeah, no, you can't have
Not
that fake cheese.
No, smoked cheddar.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good question. Making me hungry now.
Yeah.
Right, this is a bit of a deep question to finish on. Right, you are in the midst of the fitness, health, nutrition industry. Do you think there is an optimism around the way the human race is going in terms of nutrition, or is there reason to be concerned with what's going on? I feel like there is a lot.
What are you talking about here? Like processed food or
No, just in general, like
general?
with nutrition, yeah. Like I'd like to say we're at a point now where we're, as a human race, we're at a very good point in history because we know so much about it. But there's also never been this much misinformation. So, are you optimistic or are you?
I think this is quite it's quite a complex.
It's hard.
It
I know,
is, but
it's
I
hard.
completely understand what you mean, because first of all, knowledge is power, and I think there is so much. There are so many resources, and I think so many more people are talking about nutrition now, that we are becoming more aware of it, which is great. However, of course, like you said, there is always that other side to it.
Yeah, I feel like there's a for and against to every nutrition piece
Yeah,
of information on social media now, isn't there?
Yeah, which is obviously very confusing. And I remember being at one point in my nutrition journey, or my health journey, where I felt like I knew so much that it was too much, and it was confusing every decision I made around food. And that's not good either. Like, that can be quite frustrating and controlling, which is obviously not ideal when you just want to eat food.
Yeah.
I need some food.
Yeah. But I do think we are on a good path, because even though you have all this misinformation, there are a lot of very good, knowledgeable people who are out there spreading a good message and a healthy message, and I think that will just continue.
I think that's what these podcasts help with as well, because you don't just get random like Instagram arguers on podcasts. It tends to be like more like scientists and professionals, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very, very much for your time today, Gauri. It's been fantastic.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Lovely to hear your insights as well from someone who's very knowledgeable and got a lot of experience on the topic.
Yeah. I think our listeners are going to enjoy that one.
Yeah, and a lot with, especially from the female perspective as well. I think it's really important that is shared more. Thank you very much, Gauri. Where can we send the listeners to? What's your handle? Where can we find your information online?
You can find me at Gauri Matthews on Instagram, so Matthews with 2 T's. That's where I post most of my content, and if you are interested in coaching, you can just send me a DM. If you just want more support around nutrition or have any questions about anything at all, my DMs are always open, and I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
See you soon.
See you soon.